Well, Alan, I'm sure as you've gotten to know me, you know that I am very excited of the thought of Green Bay advancing, especially from a degenerate angle. They're plus 190 right now to win $100, wins you $290. We got Justice's thoughts. What are your thoughts on this NFC title game?
It's not as compelling as that AFC title game. I don't know why I'm way more intrigued by that. Just Green Bay, I thought they played their best game, yet they still couldn't put away Seattle. I thought just that offense is still inconsistent. But the fact that Rodgers and Adams were clicking like that, I think that gives people more hope because they were so on point. Even though San Fran's secondary, I'm sure it's going to give them more fits, more looks. The fact that Rodgers looked so good, I thought his ball play looked like old school Rodgers. Just everything was on point. I think that's encouraging, and the fact that Jimmy G still kind of looks rattled. Like the Minnesota game, like just as mentioned both times, he just has this tendency, Jimmy G, kind of like Jameis Winston, just loves throwing to linebackers. Just doesn't see linebackers in coverage and never forget that Seattle, the first one on Monday night, like KJ Wright could have had 2 picks. Like it's just if this game gets in Jimmy G's hands, it's concerning. But the San Fran team is so loaded. I think he's kind of like could be a game manager, kind of like Kirk in the first game. Obviously, that didn't so well the next one. But if Jimmy G, as long as he remains as a game manager and that defensive line just poses their will, it's hard to see Green Bay winning this.
I do think, like I mentioned before with Justice, you're gonna need to have Rodgers just be cold-blooded in this one, and I'm worried that, man, this offense, it's a 2-man show.
And not really be able to run the ball after what they did against Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, completely. They did to Dalvin Cook what I thought Baltimore was going to do to Derrick Henry. Like, Dalvin Cook looked...
Couldn't go anywhere.
He looked like, hold on, Paul Perkins back there. Like,
Yikes.
You know what I'm saying? Former Giant great.
They even tried running screens to him every time. It was like 3 or 4 times screen. Nowhere. Like
the Niners are... My biggest takeaway from watching them all year is relentless and...
phenomenal tackling.
Fast, too.
And
Dude,
they don't miss tackles.
They don't miss tackles. Like Joey Bosa,
Nick Bosa.
Nick Bosa, yes, you're right. I feel like, do we know if he's a wrestling fan? Because when he went down, he kind of milked that, and then he heard the crowd. It was like he got that cheap pop.
Maybe it's a George Kittle influence.
Yeah, George Kittle is a super mark. I would love to talk to George Kittle. If I was to ever interview George Kittle, I feel like I would just spend like an hour and a half talking about wrestling.
I think he'll stick around too.
Yeah, he'd definitely be into it. Over the summer, WrestleMania last year, Madison Square Garden, they had the G1 show, which is New Japan and Ring of Honor, and he was there ringside. And he shouted out the Briscoe brothers.
He is a mark beyond
Dude,
mark.
he was there had to be hammered too, but he was just going off. He was loving it. So let's get back to the football stuff.
Let's not forget the Green Bay game. He was coming off, people were saying a broken foot. I don't think it was a broken foot, but was coming off a significant injury. And that's when he outran Kevin King. That's why I was mentioning Justice Kevin King. Just seeing a tight end of George Kittle just running right past the corner of Kevin King. It was hilarious. But yeah, you got to look at his impact in this game. Now he's 100%. And another thing that you want to take away, Kittle, he was moving people in the running game. Like, people want to talk about as a blocker. He was taking on Hunter, Griffin. What's he going to do with Green Bay's edge defenders?
Man, it's if San Francisco ends up winning this game, I think it's going to have to be them doing it on the ground again. Tevin Coleman got unleashed, which was kind of surprising.
They got 3 guys that are capable of carrying the workload. I know Breida has been kind of awful here, but between him, Mostert, and Coleman, they have talent everywhere.
Yeah, and the less is more from Jimmy G. I think I kind of thought Kirk Cousins and him was like a wash as far as like the quarterback matchup. And then, I ended up siding with the Niners just because they were a better team. And I do think that they're the better team now. But, man, there's just something where if I'm a Niners fan, I'm watching this game, I'd be really nervous if the game is close. If it's a 21-17 game, 20-24, 21-20-ish, one possession and there's like 5 minutes left, it's like, man, all he needs is to pull one rabbit out of his ass and he's good. Yeah, I got a lot of buzz for that one, man. People are telling me to make shirts. Rabbit out of your ass.
Because you can only rely on Shanahan for so long when it comes to scheming players open. At some point, Jimmy's going to have to make some throws. And this Green Bay defense, they've played very well for most of the year. Like we talked about, all 3 levels they have stars. So how Jimmy G also adjusts that pressure. Like Zadarius Smith, I thought doesn't get enough credit. He could have been like a sleeper for defensive player of the year this year. I didn't realize how much impact he's had. He kind of reminds me, it comes from Baltimore, like kind of like Pernell McPhee, where you could put him on the inside or also rush him off the edge. He's just so versatile and violent. I think he's someone that can make a big difference. Besides also Preston Smith and Kenny Clark, like they have the kind of like Minnesota, the front four that they could do serious damage. Thing is, you don't want to fall behind 2 possessions and then give San Francisco. San Francisco was just running the ball at will. Like they just completely annihilated Minnesota. So Green Bay, how they stop the run and just not giving them easy looks off play action, that's going to be the biggest key for them.
Who are you going with this in this game?
Going to go San Fran. They're just so talented to me. And we also have to give a shout out to Richard Sherman. Man, teams are not throwing at him. If any quarterback will throw at him, it is Aaron Rodgers. But, oof. He is playing at some level right now. 31 years old, and he's back to talking that shit, which is just beautiful.
Yeah, I think, man, I want to say Green Bay, but I do think San Fran ultimately is going to win. But there's just something about it where I don't know how much longer could we doubt Jimmy G. You know, like he went into the Superdome and went, you know, like to use the hip hop analogy, bar for bar with like Drew Brees, you know, and
that was one crazy game. But then you look at the games against Seattle. I mean, the first one, the Baltimore game.
Well, the Seattle one I'm gonna throw away because I think Kittle is so important to that team.
True.
I've been saying
That's
that all year, where
point.
like he's in my top 5 non-quarterbacks when it comes to like what they mean to their team.
I thought it looked shaky against the Rams that Saturday night game.
Shit, if you think about it, the 4 teams that are left,
Yeah.
you know, I think Tyreek Hill is the most important guy on that offense. This is excluding the quarterbacks,
Right.
guys. I'm not that crazy. Derrick Henry, Devontae Adams, and George Kittle, man. I think those guys are so important to their team's success.
Kind of
especially
like Michael
what they do.
Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to go with the Niners as well. Okay. All right. This next game.
So hyped for this.
Are you really?
Yes.
You think it's going to be
down
close?
keep down the Titans.
Well, look, here's the thing. I didn't doubt the Titans at the beginning of the playoffs.
True,
I did an NFL challenge bracket, which we had set up for the Patreon guys as well. And my AFC side is perfect to now. It's you know, the NFC is a disaster because I had the Eagles and the Saints in the conference championship game, so bedtime to me. But the Titans now, they're playing Kansas City. They rematch from earlier this year. Derrick Henry had a 180-plus yard performance. Pat Mahomes also lit it up, for like 400 yards. Mm-hmm. It was one of those like last-second touchdowns by Ryan Tannehill. That's really what was the momentum. The momentum really started
the rise, yeah.
with the Titans. And we're going to come full circle because I think this is going to be a game that you're going to want to turn off at halftime. I think it's going to be over. I think Kansas City is going to win by 3 touchdowns.
Said that last week.
Yes, I did say that. I did say that last week. But I think there's something that as the week was progressing, I'm starting to realize this is the hardest offense the Titans are going to have to face during this entire run.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as, you know, they play New England, and sure it was New England, but like we were saying, we're like, yo, give us a reason why New England was going to win this game other than it's the Patriots, and no one could give us a reason. And last week, we said it, how if the Titans can control the clock and they can come out to the lead, we don't trust Lamar coming from behind because of how the offense is set up and what they like to do. We just saw Kansas City go down 24-0. And being a watch the tape, bro, guy, you saw that it was a lot of drops, and then they just have so much firepower. And, dude, I was talking to my guy, Rick Rosen. Shout out to Rick. We were texting throughout the game because I in-game the Chiefs plus 210 when they were down 21-0. And I told him, I was like, yo, they're like the Golden State Warriors. I've made the comparison between Steph Curry and Mahomes way back in the day. Fast forward to halftime, Nate Burleson says, yo, they're the Golden State Warriors of the NFL because they can erase these leads because, yo, Tennessee, they could jump out to these leads and they could control the time of possession. But, dude, Mahomes, people forget. We're so in the moment. He missed time and he was hobbled this year. Tyreek Hill missed some time. And then it took him like 8 weeks to really come back and be like the Pat Mahomes that we knew and loved.
And I think he got banged up against New England. I remember he had some sort of hand issue during that game. I know they still managed to win, but he did not look right during that Patriots game, which ended up being a very important win. It's helped them get the bye, looking back on it. So I think one thing that hurts Tennessee is that there's a huge discrepancy in talent when you look at New England support cast, the Baltimore support cast, and now you're going against Kansas City where you have to You have to prepare for Hill, Kelsey, Watkins, Robinson, Hardman. Like, it's the most loaded offensive league. This is scary, scary team. And Tennessee's pass rush is just not really there. They didn't really get to Brady, and Lamar had a lot of time. So that is concerning. And for some reason, they're rushing 3 a lot, which I didn't agree with at all. And yeah.
Also, dude, gotta show love to Williams.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna say. As a pass catcher,
They're using him out the back. You know, they scored the first touchdown with hitting him out the backfield. But if you go back to what he did in the playoffs last year too, he was their main catalyst.
Right.
You know,
use him on those angle routes. Yeah.
And he's a mismatch, and that's just another dude. If you think about it, like Sammy Watkins is like what, their 4th or 5th option.
He's still a vertical threat.
I know,
Yeah,
but I'm
he's
saying
still
like if Sammy Watkins is your 4th or 5th option, that's incredible. Right. I don't like Sammy Watkins because of his contract. That's why I don't like young Sammy.
Yeah.
But he's a hell of a talent, but he's not as productive to be a guy making $14-15 million a year. But man, I think this game is gonna get ugly. I really want to bet the Chiefs on the alternative spread -14.5, just because I think that Tennessee could do their thing, but you know, Chiefs could come back and answer in 4 plays.
That's definitely a valid point, and I have a big issue with just Tennessee just not being able to create pressure. You give Mahomes all the time. How many quarterbacks make better out of structure plays than him? Like any sort of angle Mahomes could do it, he does it. Like, there's no such thing as an impossible throw for him. He makes the impossible possible. So that's the biggest concern for me when it comes to looking at how Tennessee's defense matches up. Reason why I will defend Tennessee is just they have the identity. They know they can run the ball, and Kansas City is pretty light up front. This is probably the softest front 7 Tennessee is playing out of the 3. So they can impose their will, and we've seen them against New England, against Baltimore, where they could just pile up those 6-7 yard runs. More against New England. Like, New England, we really saw, especially that first half, like Henry was averaging 8 yards a carry. Baltimore was a little more difficult because you have guys like Pierce and Williams up front. But all it takes is one, and we saw Henry, that 66-yard run, just boom. And I think they can control the clock, and they could just control the line of scrimmage. So that's why I think this game will be competitive. And Tannehill, okay, can he make some throws? Yeah, it's gonna be tough because I think Kansas City also, you've seen Frank Clark play a lot better. Chris Jones should be playing.
I was just gonna ask you, do we know what his status is? Because I think that's big.
He is supposed to play, so he is practicing now, so that's big. And I do think Kansas City's secondary has played a lot better in recent weeks, so that is the concern. But it's just with Derrick Henry, he's going to pile up the yards. And I think they're going to control clock, and Vrabel knows at this point how to manage things. That's why I think it will be competitive. Even though I don't think they're going to win, because I don't think they're going to get bailed out. Not bailed out, but I just don't think they're going to make the same amount of plays they did last time. Like, to get 2 4th-and-1 conversions, that's not sustainable. The drop passes, that's not sustainable. There were just certain things in that game, just like, I don't know. And then I was really concerned by the lack of pressure. Other than Casey and Landry, they really don't have much up front. And it's just, you give Mahomes time, they're going to get punished. So that's why I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I'll be shocked if Kansas City doesn't win.
All right. No fucking around. I'm being 100% serious right now. How much are we factoring in the fact that Mike Vrabel said he'd cut his dick off for a championship?
I try not to think about that.
That's the crown jewels of the Vrabel family, son. Anyone that's willing to cut their dick off for something, that's a very passionate man.
He's my favorite coach of the league right now. I love everything. From between that quote and just, I love what he did at Foxborough. He just gave a little small handshake to Belichick and just started jumping around like he was a player all over again. He's just a cool dude. Oh, I also love what they showed. Teron Davenport posted, who's B-Roy for them on ESPN. Like, after the game, he just gave handshakes to everyone. He just seems like such a cool, fun dude. Like, that's what it's cool what Mike Vrabel is doing. I think, and Arthur Smith deserves credit, their offensive coordinator. What he's done, no one knew who he was. He was replacing Matt LaFleur, and it was just a big step up for him. So that Tennessee coaching staff deserves a huge amount of credit. As for the whole, what he'll do, I don't know. He's going against Pat Mahomes. That's a problem.
Choppy, yo, pee-pee. Oh, man. I think that's something we got to...
I really try not to think about it.
Last thing I want to ask you about this game.
Well, Tannehill throw over 100 yards.
Well, he might have to, because if they're playing from behind, which I think they will be, how quick of a 180 did Twitter turn between that first quarter for the Chiefs and the Andy Reid stuff? Because Andy Reid, for as great as he's been, he hasn't won a Super Bowl. Many times he's had a bye week and his team has lost as a bye. Do you know that the Chiefs, prior to them making the playoffs last year, had lost 8 straight home games in the
I
playoffs.
saw that they were 1-7.
Dude, how crazy is that? First time in their history that they go back-to-back AFC title games that they're hosting. And, man, we might be watching something special with Kansas City. Let's not forget, D Ford is 6 inches back. They go to the Super Bowl last year. And if they just knew that Edelman was going to get the fucking ball on 3 straight third downs, which the whole world knew. I always say this. I'm watching the game with my mom, and she's like, oh, he's going to go to Edelman or Gronk. I was like, yeah, I know. And then, he catches the first 2, and she's like, why don't they stop him? I was like, we've been asking ourselves for 20 years.
To be fair, Brady couldn't have been more accurate, especially those throws to Gronk.
Yeah,
Those Gronk
yeah.
against Eric Berry, and just plays on those back shoulder throws to Gronk. What can you do against them? So I think this is more Brady being the GOAT than it should be more on Kansas City.
Prediction for this game.
I think Chiefs win. They'll pull away at the end, but I do think it'll be competitive just based on Derrick Henry and the coaching job that Tennessee's done.
I'm going to go 35-14 Kansas City.
That is very harsh. We'll see. I don't know. I think we've been sleeping on Tennessee. They've knocked off 2 AFC powerhouses. Imagine now, it'll be just insane. Like a team, we've been saying all year, this has been the most irrelevant team. The team we've talked about almost every team on this podcast. I would say, we really talked about the Titans, and it's like, what is there to talk about?
Yeah.
And now look at them.
Do you feel validated where, I'm kind of giving myself more credit and patting myself on the back when a team you picked to win the division doesn't win the division, but they go further in the playoffs? Is that because I picked them to win the South, which they didn't. They lost to the Texans, but
You should feel validated. They still made the playoffs. They're still doing their thing.
Interesting.
I had the Colts. I still believed in them, even when Luck was out.
All right.
Frank Reich, he's going to rebuild it back. But no, regardless, Ed, you have to give so much love to Tennessee. I think this has been one of the funnest stories. And it's cool to see a dominant running back in an age where the running back value couldn't be lower. We're talking about contracts. Is this guy worth it? Say what about Derrick Henry. That man could change a game. And I don't know what his future is going to be, but what he's done, 63 carries. Guy that's absurd, man. That's 20 years ago you see running backs do it. Who does that now? I can't remember the last time running back in the big spot handle the workload like that.
And also been productive. The teams know that he's going to get the ball 30 times, and you can't stop him.
And you see, for a guy of his stature, just those 60-yard runs. Like that run just running through Judon, the defensive end, on a 3rd and 2. He makes plays even when the blocking's not good, he'll just run through tackles. There's no way you're tackling him on first contact.
If you don't hit him behind the line of scrimmage, you're in trouble.
Pretty
You
much,
got to get penetration. I think Chris Jones is the biggest X factor of this game.
Right.